Parshas today. So we start off Achimais and we go into Kedoshim. We are holding in the book of Leviticus. We are holding chapter 16, verse number 1. And God spoke to Moshe after the passing of the two sons of Aaron. When they came close to God, and they passed away. So Rashi says, what does it tell us? We know that already, that the two sons of Aaron died. Ablezer ben Azai would illustrate this through a parable of a sick person who was visited by a doctor. Told him, do not eat cold food and do not lie in damp places. Another doctor came and told him, do not eat cold food and not lie in damp places, so you won't die like so-and-so died. So the second doctor motivated the guy more than the first doctor, because the second doctor told him the ramifications of eating cold and sleeping in damp places. So too, the Eibishter already told Aaron, to respect the temple. But over here, God, in essence, tells Moshe, tell Aaron it's not a joke. That going into the Beis Hamikdash and going especially into the Holy of Holies, that even though Aaron might have a desire, he should know how to curb this desire. Verse number 2. God said to Moshe, speak to your brother Aaron. He shouldn't come anytime he wants into the holy, in behind the curtains, that covers the covering over the covering of the test of the ark, and he won't die. Because I appear within a cloud over the ark. Now she says, he shouldn't die like his sons died. He shouldn't die, because if you could do it, he might die. He will die. Rashi, what does it mean? I always appear there with a pillar or cloud. Since the presence is revealed there, he must be careful not to enter regularly. This is the straightforward meaning. But in the Gemara, you showed over here, this is the Veda of Yom Kippur. There's a whole Masechta on this parsha. The portion of the Aveda of the service of the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur, the service of the Kohen Gadol. And the Medrash says that he only comes in ba'ana of Anan. He only comes into the Holy of Holies once a year, and that's it on Yom Kippur when he brings in the Ketores. He has to bring it on that day. He brought in the Ketores, and the room was filled with Ashan. With a cloud was formed by himself. So not that the Abish, not that God's cloud's there, but that the Kohen Gadol brings the cloud there. So verse number 3. This is the way Aaron comes to the holy. The Parben Bakar, he has to bring a young bull, lachatos, for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering. That's his bezois. What is bezois? Rashi, as usual, that Rashi brings down a gematria, a numerical value, and Rashi gives over here a numerical value. Bezois is 410, and it alludes that the first Beis Hamikdash will stand for 410 years, and that's when only the first Beis Hamikdash had the Aron. The second Beis Hamikdash didn't have the Aron, the ark. Bezois Yavi Aron. By the means of the following, he must enter. So even then, not at all times, the Aaron HaKohen couldn't just walk in on Yom Kippur whenever he wanted into the Holy of Holies. Kimbi Makapurim, and Kameshvur say a Pasha, as brought down the end of the Pasha on the 7th month and the 10th day. So this is the only time, and there's a certain way he comes into the Holy of Holies. And again, as I said, this is it's a difficult process, and it's not so clear as Rashi will tell us in the Pesukim how to learn it, how exactly it worked, and you have to really learn the Gemara to go into the real story behind this parsha. Verse number 4 says, "Bat kodesh yilbash." He must wear a linen tunic. In general, he wore the garments of Kohen Gadol, which were gold and silver and all the Turkish wool. But he went into the Holy of Holies only in a linen tunic. And he must he guided himself with a linen stash, and with a linen turban. Big day Kodesh, these are holy garments. He has to go to the mikveh. He has to go to the mikveh before elevation, before he puts on these garments. Now she says, this tells us that first of all, he doesn't officiate inside the Holy of Holies with the 8 garments, which he officiated outside the sanctuary and the courtyard, because they contain gold, which occasion the sin, which reminds us of the sin of the golden calf, which be inappropriate for him to go in the Holy of Holies. For an accuser cannot become a defender. Rather, he wears the same 4 garments that a regular priest wears, which are all made of linen. Kodesh Yilbash, Rashi says, these garments, the Torah tells us these garments were made from the coffers of the Beis Hamikdash. That's why it's Mishel Hegdish. It comes from the temple treasury. Yitznaif, because also these garments it was made for him every year, a new set of garments, and so every year they would fit him for a new set of garments for Yom Kippur. Yitznaif, now she says, Uncle says, he places it on his head. But now she says, on that day, he requires to go to the mikveh each time he changed his clothes. And he changed his clothes 5 times. He would change his clothes whenever he proceeded for the service pertaining to inside the Holy of Holies, to the service outside, and back to the service inside. He would change from the golden garments to the white linen, and from the white linen garments to the golden garments. And every change of clothes, he required to go to the mikveh, and twice washing his hands and feet from the kier. So he went 5 times that day, 4 times in the service, 1 day before. He went 5 times to the mikveh on that day. Once he removed, I think Ashi will give us the account later. Once removing, once said, and once after doning it. Then he takes, that was the first, he brought his own pot, his own bull. From the Jewish people. He has to take 2 he-goats, for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Verse number 6. And Aaron brings he brings a sin offering of his bull offering. And he comes to atone for his own sins, and for the sins of his household. Now she says, the sin offering which is said above, beginning of the parasha, the wording here teaches us it must be brought from his own funds. So the first offering that he brought was not brought from the Beis Hamikdash. He had to pay himself for that bull, and not from those of the community. Now she says he confesses for his sins that he did, God forbid, and for the sins of his household. Verse number 7. He takes those 2 goats. He placed them before God outside the entrance of the tent of meeting. Verse number 8. And Adam puts on both of these goats, he puts a lottery. 1 lottery said to God, and the second lottery said to Lazazel, to go, as Asher will say, to Lazazel was a mountain that this goat was thrown off. Now she says, Mamini stands 1 to the right and 1 to the left. He places hands in a vessel containing 2 lots. That's why Purim is like Kippurim. But because Purim, Yom Kippur was also a lottery. And this was the lottery. He draw on the right and the left. He placed them on the goats. The goat with the inscribed to God is designated to God. And the one inscribed Lazazel was designated to Azazel. The Gemara says that it was a great schus if it always happened that he took out the right to Hashem and the left Lazazel. and that was like a segula. That was an omen that if he did it that way. But if it didn't happen that way, that the left went to La Hashem and the right to La Azazel, that's what happened. But that was the way he was. So you take out, usually the right was La Hashem and the left was La Azazel. Azazel, Rashi says, is an interesting word. It's a rocky and harsh cliff. A high, and its gezeda comes from the land. It comes from the word a craggy land, implying that it was a mountain with sharp stones. Verse number 9. The Hikrives Adonai Allah and Adam brings up the carbon that he went on and he won the lottery that said to God, and he brought it as a carbon chatas. Now she says, when he placed the lottery on it, he designated it as a sin offering by saying, La Shem chatas, for God, this is the sin offering for God. Verse number 10. And the goat that the lottery fell upon it to go Lazazel, Yamad Chayel Hashem, standing alive before God, so to say. Lechaper, all of to forgive. The Shalach Chaysel Lazazel, to send it out to this desert, to this mountain, Hamidbara, that was in the desert. Now she says, Yumad Chay, by others, Onkelos translated, concurs that it must be made to stand alive. Why does the Torah tell us this? The answer is that since it says to send to Azazel, I do not know that it means sending it to death or life. It therefore says here it must stand standing alive. It's standing alive last until it's sent away. And we thus infer that from here that the sending away is to die. You didn't send it away to graze in the field. It was sent away so that it would actually die. The Chaper Allah actually want me to forgive upon him that he must do a vidui. He must do a confession upon this animal. And then I see these psukim are a little confusing because the pasuk are going backwards and forwards. It's very unclear the order, and I think Rashi will try to make some clarity in the order, but surely the Gemara gives us a clarity in the order of the way the card this went. And Aaron brought his sin offering. They came to atone for himself and for his family. And he brought forgiveness, and he slaughtered this bull that was a korban chatos of his own korban chatos. Now she says this indicates a second confession. And also, if you're listening to the Avodah on Yom Kippur, you'll see this whole Avodah, all the vidus, all the confessions that the Kohen Gadol did. So, for a second confession for himself and for his fellow priests. So over here, Ba'ad Beisai was not his family, because he did that already. It was for the family of Kehanim, or also termed Beisai, his family, his house. As it says, the house of Aaron, blessed God. From here we learn that the priest gave atonement through this sacrifice. This entire atonement is the entering of the sacrifice or eating from the sacrifice in a state of ritual defilement of a Kohen Taka made a mistake, and he ate fun. He went into the Beis Hamikdash. He was tummy by mistake. That's the importance of this atonement, because it could have been a lot of Kehanim that they would never know. They would do something by mistake. Maybe they're impure by mistake, and they went into the Beis Hamikdash, and so therefore that's the point of this sacrifice. Verse number 12. He must take a pan full of burning coals from the altar before God, and a handful of fine incense, samim daka, that's very finely crushed, and he brought this behind the curtain. Now, is from the outside altar, from the inside of the altar that is in front of the entrance, on the west side of the outside altar. Daka, what does it tell us? Daka means fine. surely all incense is required to be fine. It says you must grind some very finely, daka mina daka. So therefore, it's telling us that the incense must be extra fine for the day of Yom Kippur. It was returned to the mortar and it was regrounded. So the incense, the potatoes of the Yom Kippur was a double fine daka. Verse number 13. Then he takes the incense, he puts it upon the fire. Hashem, before God. And when he did that, the incense, a cloud, enveloped the whole ark, covering from above. Which is on the testament, which is on the other, and he won't die. Now she says, upon the fire, which was in the pan, and he will not die. What does it teach us? That if he didn't do this, chas v'shalom, he would die. Verse number 14. Then he took from the bull's blood, and he dashed it with his index finger towards the eastern side of the ark. And he must dash the blood in his index finger 7 times on the cover of the ark. It was inside the Holy of Holies. This implies 1 dash. In thus making 1 dash upwards and 7 downwards. Verse 15. And then he went and he slaughtered the goat that was designated for the people that they brought. He again brought it into the Holy of Holies. He did exactly what he did with the blood of the ox. He did it with the goat, with the blood of the goat. He dashed the blood on the ark, in front of the ark. The people, that is which the bull atones for the priest. The goat comes to atone for the Jewish people. The goat refers to the goat, which there was a lottery, that they put a lottery upon it. So that's the goat that we are talking about. What does that mean? Now she says 1 upwards and 7 downwards. Verse 16. He comes to effect the atonement on those that we defiled from the impurity of the Jewish people, and from their rebellious acts, for all their unintentional acts. And this is what he should do for the tent of meeting. As Sheichen Itam, who dwells with the Jewish people, mitoich to Masam, in the state of defilement. Now she says, Mitumas Bnei Yisrael, these are those who enter the Holy of Holies, the Beis Hamikdash, not Holy, those who enter the Beis Hamikdash, and they're not aware that they're impure. So, Chatasim refers to inadvertent sins. Pishem, rebellious acts, comes to forgive even intentional sins. And Kippur comes to forgive unintentional sins and unintentional sins also. Just as he dashed the blood of the bull and the goat inside the Holy of Holies, and each one upwards 7 times downwards, so does he dash the blood of them both toward the curtain, because he did the same thing outside the Holy of Holies. He dashed the blood one time above towards the curtain itself, and 7 times below. Even though they are ritually defiled, Eibishter says the divine presence is with the Jewish people. Verse 17, nobody should be in a tent of meeting. When the Kohen God comes to the Holy of Holies, he comes to give forgiveness upon him and upon his family, and for the entire Jewish nation. Verse 18. And then he must proceed to the outer altar that is before God. He takes from the blood of the bull, and the blood that was left over from the bull and from the goat. He puts the leftover blood on the corners of this Mizbeach, Saviv, that was around the altar. Rashi says, this refers to, this refers to actually not the outer altar, this refers to the inner altar. So this refers to the golden altar, which is before God. In such a position, it's the only time he put blood on the altar in the Beis Hamikdash was the blood of the carbon, these two carbonas. He would put it around the altar in the incense altar in the Beis Hamikdash. Why does it tell us of the yachts? So why does he go out? That's my mistake. I said the yachts. He went out. So since he performed the dashing of blood towards the curtain, he stood in the area within the golden altar and the dashing. But placing the blood in the golden altar, he would require to proceed beyond the golden altar. He didn't start from where the golden altar was facing the curtain. He actually started on the outside of the golden altar. That's why it says Vayatza. He goes to the outer part of the golden altar, and he starts from the east side of it, and he begins the blood service from to the northern way. So you started from the east side and went around to the north, and then to the west, and back to the north. The Chiper Alav, Rashi says, brings to what is the atonement? He must take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood and mix it into one situation. So that's, he took both of their blood, the blood for his own sin and his families, and the blood for the entire Jewish nation. They would mix it together. He would mix it together, and he would bring this blood on the altar. Verse 19. He's all of an Adam bats by Sheva upon him, and then he sprinkled the blood 7 times with Tira, and he bring purity mitumasim himself from the impurities of the Jewish people. Now she says, after placing the blood on this Mizbeach HaKtoros had 4 horns, so to say, 4 crowns that came out. So that's first way he put the blood up on. And then after that, he sprinkled it on the top, the gagoy, on the top of the Mizbeach Hazav. The Tirei Mashava, he brought purity for any defilements that occurred. The Kiddush lost it, and he sanctified it for the future. Verse 20. The Chiper Mekar Chaper Zakodesh, he finished the effect of atonement. Vesayel Moed, and the atonement for the tent of meeting. Vesam Mizbeach, and the altar. The Hikir Vesayel, and he brought he must bring the live he goat. Verse 21. He must place his hand upon the live he goat. His vadalav, and he confesses upon it. As kol avenos bnei Yisrael, all the sins of the Jewish people. As kol pishiyem, all their rebelliousness. L'chol chatoisam, to all their inadvertent sins. And he puts it all upon the living animal, right? Because there's one that was still living. V'shilach by isha midbara, and he sent this animal with a person, with a kohen, into the desert. Ish iti, what means ish iti? Rashi says a timely man who was designated for this. There was a kohen that was designated to do this avodah. Verse 22. And this goat carries upon the sins into a precipitous, a gezeda. He sends the goat with the sender to the desert. Verse 23. Then comes to the tent of meeting. His big he takes off his linen garments, which he wore when he came into the Holy of Holies, and he leaves it over there. Now she says, our rabbis say that this is not the proper place for this verse. And they gave reasoning. This all the Masechta Yuma. Masechta Yuma is a tractate of the service of the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur. They say that the entire passion is stated in order, except for this entrance to the tent of meeting, which takes place after the sacrifice. After sacrifice, he has sent offering, and the people's a sent offering, and burning up the fats of the bull and the goat, which are all performed outside the tabernacle, wearing golden garments, is then that he immersed him and washed him with hands and feet to remove the golden garments and don the white garments. So the Gemara proves, as I say, that this pasuk needs to be said really later, and there's really a mixture of the verses there. I said, in order to remove the spoon and remove that spoon and pan used to burn the incense in the innermost chamber, you had to go there to go back to the Holy of Holies. He must remove the linen garments. After he removed them, the spoon and the pan, he then dons the golden garment to daily or afternoon offering. So now Rashi tells you the service. And this is the order of the service. Daily morning offering in the golden garments. That was the beginning of the service. Carbon tummet was brought in his regular garments. The service of the inner bull and the goat and the incense burning in the pan and the white garments. So he changed into white to bring that bull, his bull, and the goat of the people. And the pan and the white garments. His ram and the people's ram and the parts of additional offering of a kippur, he would wear the golden garments. He changed back. Removing the spoon and the pan, then he had to go back to remove the spoon that had the fire and the potatoes. He had to go back. That he wore in the white garments. And then he came out, and the daily incense sanctuary and the sanctuary and the inner altar was done the golden garments. So he changed back. So that was the service in the Beis Hamikdash. He changed back and forth 4 times. In order to know the verses according to the order of the services as follows: in the desert, he must send a he-goat. He must immerse the flesh in water. He must go out and sacrifice his incense offering. He must burn up the fat in the offering. The whole passage until after doing so, he may enter the camp. And after that, Aaron must enter. So that's the way you must set up the parsha. If he finishes the service, he takes the linen garments and he leaves it in the Beis Hamikdash. That teaches us that they must be hidden away. They must not be used. They not use these 4 garments for another Yom Kippur. These 4 garments were used once a year, and every year they would make another 4 garments for him. Verse 24. He must go to the mikveh in a holy place. He puts on his clothes. He goes out and he does his own burnt offering, and the burnt offering of the people, and he comes to his forgiveness for him and for his people. Rashi says, earlier we derived that he must immerse himself in the water, the mikveh, before he dons them. That is, when he changes from the golden garments to the white, he requires immersion. For with that immersion, he removes the golden garments in which he performed the service of the daily offering, and donned the white garments, which he did the day of the Yom Kippur offering. And here we learn that when he changes from the white garments to the golden, he has to go to the mikveh. So every time he changed the garments, he went to the mikveh. But Makim Kaddish, now she says, in a sanctified with holiness in the courtyard, there was a roof on the roof of the Parva house. There was a mikveh. There was a couple of mikvehs in the Beis Hamikdash itself. The same applied to the 4 obligated immersions of that day. So there was 5 times that he went to the mikveh. First time he went when he woke up in the morning, went to the mikveh, and then there was an obligation of 4 times to go to the mikveh in the service itself. So he went 5 times to the mikveh. So that's why the first time was actually not in the Beis Hamikdash per se itself. It was the Beis Hamikdash, but outside in the way it was built, that mikveh. The other 4 times was actually in the Beis Hamikdash. It was right next to the altar. If you know the makeup of the Beis Hamikdash, right next to the altar, upon on the room, it was, I think on the salt room, there was a mikveh right there. Lavish begadov, shmeina begadov, the 8 garments in which he officiated the entire year. V'yatza, either from the sanctuary to the courtyard, which sacrificial sacrifice he offered. V'asa salasei, he brought up the incense offering, amolamai, which mentioned above. Eilas this Ayel Echad, this was the one ram that the Jewish people brought to forgive on their sins. And that completes the Chumash for today. We are in the middle of the Tanya of chapter 44 of Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe was explaining, beautiful last couple of days, the Alter Rebbe was explaining the concept of the aspect of Avas Olam, Ava Rabba, the two concepts of having love, the love of the light and the love through the world, to comprehending godliness in the world. So the Alter Rebbe continues. Nevertheless, a person must train his intellect to apprehend and attain also the above-mentioned level of Avas Olam and Eskeres Leil. Haba mizbanis with stems, mizbanis v'das havaya v'gdulas Hashem, in the knowledge of the greatness of God. So as such, differs from the love of my soul, and like a son, which is essential, are inherited and are only revealed through contemplation. So a Jew needs to take some time and contemplate. In order to fan and blaze the fiery love with the glowing coals and an intense fire and a flame that rises up heavenward, so that. And why does a Jew want to do that? Because when a Jew awakens up his heart with his contemplation, he creates a burning fire. And why is it important to create a burning fire? Because there's many waters of Titus. There's many conflicting waves that come for the many waters which are enemies to this love. The waters of troubles, the waters of hate, the waters that come to extinguish this fire. And therefore, if you're going to have a little flame, the water will extinguish it. And you need to create a burning fire, that this water, and not even a river can quench the fire. So love created per his own contemplation, the more passionate. That's the point. We need to become more passionate. Period. That love, which is in essence is much greater, the love that we create, than the love that is thus innate. And even in that inherited love and is revealed through contemplation. Yes, because it's a superiority and an excellence in the quality of a burning love, like a fiery coal, an intense fire, above his bonus, which comes from the contemplation, midas, and the knowledge of a person. Bigdula saying Seifu, and each person that contemplates the greatness of God. I'll stay bechinas avos, greater, much greater than the love of a son and the love of innate love. Need to create your own love. They are not a burning fire. They're not a blazing fire. A blazing fire is a fire of a Baal Tshuva. That's a blazing fire even greater than a tzaddik, because a fire of Baal Tshuva is a fire that cannot be extinguished. Mary is not fairly. God's closest to a Jew in so much as he's the source of our life and our true father. The superiority of this love is and the superiority of gold over silver, which Shakosaka explained before. So not only is gold worth more than silver, ounce for ounce, in which case a correspondent of silver would be more valuable, but gold instinctively is greater value, in that it possesses a distinctive gleam, which people find highly attractive. And that's why to a person, gold is more precious. So too here, regarding the love, the results wholly from contemplation is not only higher level of love. On the contrary, the level of love that comes from above is termed Abba, greater love, is the higher form of love. The priority of love that results entirely from contemplation rides in its very passion and its yearning soul. And that's the love of a Baal Tshuva. That's why it says, where a Baal Tshuva stands, even a tzaddik doesn't stand. Because even though a tzaddik has Abba b'tainugim, he has Abba Rabba. But a tzaddik, but a Baal Tshuva has Abba Olam. A Tshuva has a burning fire, and that's why it's even greater than the love of a tzaddik. This one, why the previous mentioned kind of loves that a Jew inherited does not suffice. They lack the passion that's compared to the love emanating entirely from one's intellect. Alter Rebbe now provides yet another reason why the holy contemplation of love is necessary. It is important to attain the contemplated love not only because the superiority of resulting passion, but because contemplation is an end unto itself. There's a mitzvah to contemplate about God. By contemplating God's greatness, one fulfills the purpose of creation. That created being should come to know. There's a mitzvah, Adas Hashem. And that's it. So therefore, even though you might have a passionate love of God, you need to think about God. It's a mitzvah to think about God. This is the whole important aspect of a human being, to contemplate about God. The mandas is great avaya. It's important to know the glory of God, the yikar feres gedulasi, and the majestic splendor of His greatness. Ish kefi asher says, every person according to his capability. As it brought down the Rayim Mehem in the portion of Bay, begin the stamile chului, and so forth, as it's in order that they know Him, and so forth as it's known. Thus, there's equal quality and purpose in contemplation that leads to love itself. Contemplating about God's greatness is exercised to a much greater degree in the love that is created from contemplation than is found the love of that's only in that aspect. In the case, in the two mental the concepts of love. And that completes the Chumash, that completes the Tanya for today. Today is the 6th day of the month, which is chapter 35 to chapter 38. You'll learn those if you're not learning, you say those second. You say those chapters of Tilim, you do the Chitas of I can't find that Yom Yom.
Okay.
If you do those you do those 5 chapters, you do the Chitas of the day. Today the Rebbe writes in Yom Yom, our sages said one should not take leave of his friend other than with the parting words of Torah law, Dvar Halacha. Person should not say goodbye to somebody only through the words of Torah. Our forefathers, the saintly Rebbes, explained the parting word should be a kind of Torah teaching that transforms the listener into a mahalach, a progress. It continues hiluch, meanings to rise from level to level in one's ascent after another. Such progression embodies the superiority of the human soul over the angels. From this ascent into greater through the acts of goodness, extends a favor to another, a material favor in general, a spiritual favor in particular. Wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day. And Mitzvah Hashem at 10 o'clock, we will do Tanya at the JEI or on this
channel.
Zoom. On
This channel.
Platform.
Well, tomorrow 8 o'clock.
This platform.